Hey,
Hola and ciao ciao.
ciao, ciao. Welcome to You're So Fucking Enlightened, a not so serious approach to all things spiritual. I'm Robbin Webb.
I'm Jeanie Baker of Intuitive Soul Coaching and Retreats.
We are so
Fucking happy you're here.
You're here.
Glad, happy.
Yes, sort of the same thing.
I love it.
Yeah. So, today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects to talk about. Fucking traveling.
Mine too.
Yeah. Yeah. Traveling and food, those are probably my two favorite subjects. Yeah. Definitely top two. Yeah. But
I think mine's travel, food, healing, and dogs.
Yeah, I mean, definitely healing is like probably the third. And I do like to talk about dogs. Also, one of them is whining in the background.
Yes.
Live show, guys. Okay, but first, how are you?
I am really good. I'm doing my training with my puppy for his therapy service dog. We are about less than 60 days out, I think, for my flight to Italy. And I just got chills. And I've been gathering all my paperwork for my dual citizenship process. And that feels good.
That's great.
You?
I'm doing really well too. I've been, I had been on the struggle bus earlier this year, just with trusting the process of everything and just going through different things that I didn't really want to discuss on the podcast at this point. But I had gotten a lot more clarity about where I was going. And I am really excited about the upcoming things now. So I'm feeling like really good. The weather has turned. We are experiencing like a really great springtime other than the fucking pollen, y'all. It is like I just had to sweep the house because I have a little dog, Lola. You've met her on this little show before. If you watch the YouTube, then you've seen her, but she is so low to the ground. She's a dachshund, and so she's picking up all of the pollen that she goes outside. So she brings it inside for us, and so it's just like a constant sweeping and
Dirty bird.
Dirty bird.
Dirty bird with
Little Lola bird is a dirty bird. Yeah.
So let's get into it.
We're going to talk today about travel, but not typical like tourism travel. We're going to talk about transformational travel. And I'm going to start by defining that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so transformational travel is travel experiences that lead to personal growth, self-awareness, and positive change.
So this is the definition based on like
just like general. If you Google it, like what is transformational travel? Okay. Like I always like to what does the Google's think transformational travel is? So the Google says that transformational travel are travel experiences that lead to personal growth, self-awareness, and positive change. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, I think Google was right on that one. So congratulations, Internet.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But let's talk about what transformational travel looks like compared to traditional tourism.
Yeah, and for me, transformational travel, I feel, is something that gives me a greater perspective of my place in the world. Mm-hmm. It gives me gratitude for my life.
Yeah.
When we take ourselves into other places and other cultures, especially when we travel internationally.
Yeah.
I think that is like one of the greatest things that it does. And it opens the mind.
Yeah.
And that for me is where it's at.
Yeah.
We all know people that stay in their box.
Yeah.
And choose not to travel.
Right.
And their mind usually is more closed.
Yeah.
Versus those of us who travel more.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a greater perspective and an open mind.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which goes back to our enlightenment, in spiritual, when we first started season 2, of like what that meant.
Right.
It's like that openness.
Yeah.
of different people's perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Versus like traditional tourism, where I wrote some things down. So traditional tourism focuses more on like leisure, recreation, relaxation. And you might, if you're traveling internationally, there's going to be a level of engagement with other cultures, but it's definitely more surface level, like superficial interactions more, not like a deep dive into other cultures. You might be taking some guided tours. You might have brief encounters with local people in like commercialized areas.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And so in more bookshy, she's making noise. In transformational travel, also sometimes called like intentional travel, I think those terms are sort of interchangeable to me.
For sure.
So it's a little bit more about making authentic connections versus the surface level connection. So,
and I've been on both spectrums.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. But like, if you like, for me, I'll say this, I've never like, you'll see like mostly if you go to like, if you go, goodness, on cruises or like an all-inclusive vacation, I'm not knocking that. I'm saying that I do know that that is not for me. I'm not saying I wouldn't go on it because like my husband's always wanted to try to take me on those types of trips, but for me, I cannot go to fucking Jamaica without going and fucking interacting with Jamaican people.
Yeah.
And outside of like them being in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
I don't like that. It makes me feel icky. But that doesn't mean that I know that that type of thing also like creates freaking jobs for people and it keeps the economy going in a lot of countries and that sort of thing. But I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I have not experienced that before.
Yeah, for me, I used to travel like that, especially like it's kind of funny, like when you kind of morph into your partner.
Yeah.
And you adapt their sensibilities and their likes.
Yes.
This is exactly what I did.
You do that. You would do that. We all do that in our relationships.
Before,
even friendships.
Before Scott, maybe I should have said that, but anyway. We're still friends. So. But before, I got married, I did intentional travel. I didn't even know what that word intention was yet. Okay. Immersed myself in no matter where I was going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I got married and his comfortability was this leisurely travel, these resorts, these cruises, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, I took a trip with him. I designed it. We went to a holistic resort. And that was the first time that in kind of a resort style that I was like, oh, you'd be super intentional about how you trip, how you vacate.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Right. Just because this is what is mass marketed.
Yeah. And then, fun fact, when I left him, then all my travel changed.
Yeah.
All my travel became to look like him.
Yeah.
Intentional travel.
Yeah.
Versus tourism travel.
Yeah. I think that if I were going to go to one of those resorts, it would have to be bookended or just on the back end of like more of a intentional or transformational trip, not like that way I could work it in. You can work in a little relaxation, not having to think and plan things. That's nice. There's something nice about that. I agree. But if I'm making the effort of buying an airplane ticket and going to a whole other country where there's somebody that lives completely different than me, I have just a curious mind. I'm a natural learner, and I'm naturally curious. And I want to know about that culture. I want to know what their lives look like. I want to know what they eat, not what they're serving at the freaking sushi place at the resort. I'll eat that too, but first I want to eat. I want to know what they're eating. I want to know what their music, what they're listening to. I want to know what their art looks like. I want to know what their lives look like on a daily basis, how they raise their children. That shit just fascinates me.
Yeah, for me, I love having conversations with people. I think that's like one of the number one things that I love to do outside of sightseeing, like seeing, going to museums and seeing historical sites because I fucking love that shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, like
but that's why they put culture.
Yeah, outside of like that type of event.
Yeah.
Talking to people and having conversations that are deeper.
Yeah.
Are 100% where it's at. I remember when I went to Guatemala, I just sat, outside. We just sat outside and had a smoothie, and just people start gathering, right? And you just have conversations, and then you start to meet people from all different places in the world.
Yeah, it's a great.
That's
amazing.
That's a show.
Yes, same. So, and whereas like traditional tourism, is a lot more predictable and routine. Like you probably have these things mapped out. You're going to this museum. You're going to this dinner. It's more like what the masses are doing. Where like when you go to a cold bush. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Stop, buddy. All right. He was laying in the living room this whole time, and now that we're in here recording, he wants to go outside. So
he's learning how to be an assistant.
He can go out in a few minutes. All right. So let's also talk a little bit about like sustainability also and touch on that too. Like the more mass tourism type of stuff, as far as like responsible practices.
Yeah, for sure.
Too. So what does that look like, do you think? Like for me, overcrowding places, pollution becomes a problem. Just, I think I heard it first in like the Boy Scouts, like when my son was thinking about joining, we went on a little hike with them. The leave no trace thing. So it degrades natural habitats.
For me, I even so the retreats that I lead, I have a packing list for people, and one of my like big asks of people is like natural and organic products. Like and it is like over the years, people have really thanked me, like, thank you for putting that, because it's something I haven't thought about. And now I am traveling differently on my trips.
Because like where are we going to take, we have different requirements for our products here than there are in other countries, and so we could literally be taking chemicals into another country that don't even exist there, or there's not widely used. I love having like the reef safe sunscreens, and just anything. Like I know that these little things seem so small, but when you have hundreds of thousands of people that
create a huge impact.
It creates a huge impact. For sure. And also, let's talk about like the exploitation of people. I like when I do travel, I do like to pick, like if I'm staying in an Airbnb, I like to pick one that is owned by someone that lives in that area. Like if I'm going to Mexico, I want to pick an Airbnb that's going to benefit the Mexican economy by benefiting the Mexican people, not an Airbnb that somebody from Seattle, a rich guy from Seattle bought. Like just to be mindful of that, because or like a smaller boutique hotel that might be owned by local people too.
Yes, I like important for you.
That is really important for me too. So
for me, it's about anything I do. If I'm hiring chefs, going on excursions, anything like that, is having the people that come from that place offer those things, and support them.
I love that. Awesome. Okay, so we talked about like the difference between traditional tourism and transformational travel or intentional travel. Now we're going to talk about what transformational travel like might look like across the stages of life. Like what if you're going to go on a transformational journey in your 20s.
So before we go there,
so
I'd like to know, so I'd like to share, and I think that it would be important for our viewers, is like what changed your life? Like what trip, like when you reflect back, what trip was like fuck, man, this is how I want to travel.
Yeah, I was getting to that. We were coming to that.
Okay.
But we can start with that if you want to. So,
Yeah.
so a transformational trip for me was, I've got a couple of them, but it was the first time that I went out of the country. I went to Spain, and I went alone. And I mean, fuck, like a lot of people are scared to like travel out of the country with someone they know. And I went by myself. I had never been out of the country. Um, I actually, okay, so no, I didn't go by myself. Let me back up a little bit. I was traveling. This is when I was a teacher. I took a group of students on a thing called EF tours. People might be familiar with them. It's called like Education First tours, and they host educational tours all over the world, and you can take your students there. So I was planning a trip for that in June of, I believe, 2018. But before that, they do give you like a I guess what they would call an informational one, or a practice run, or an introduction tour, or whatever. So they take you on a tour. So I didn't go alone, but I did hop on that fucking airplane alone, and I made it to my hotel alone. Like I had to find, that whole thing. So I went, and it just getting to Spain, like for me, it was a big deal. I had never been out of the country, and I just realized while I was there, I think it built so much confidence in me.
Important.
Because at that point, I really didn't know what I was capable of. I could barely get around New York City. I mean, a lot of people can barely get around. It's quite hard to get around New York City. But like, I actually got left on the way. Like we had a bus take us to the airport on our way home. And I got left because I was late. I was like 30 seconds late. Like I saw the bus pull off. Like they'll leave you if they, So I had to I don't speak much Spanish, so I had to hail a taxi and tell him I was going to the airport, and and he didn't speak. This taxi driver. A lot of people in Spain speak English, but this taxi driver did not speak English. And so just doing that, and being able to see, and then the month later we went to France, we went to Italy, and I also got my students we took the metro. I forgot what it's called in Paris. I think it's the metro, but I think we took the metro. I got them back and forth from where we were staying every day. I do know a little bit of French, but I think it made I learned so much about myself, because I learned what I was capable of, and I learned what from there. Then I actually decided I was leaving teaching. I was going to go into entrepreneurship. I was going to start my own business, and that just really helped with my confidence.
It was like the catapult.
It was. It was a catalyst to get me to where I am now. I think, because I didn't realize what I was capable of until then.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your turn.
Yeah. I know. I love that, because it goes back to what we talked about, the openness.
Mm-hmm.
It's you experiencing that built more confidence.
Yeah.
And you found more resilience in yourself, and what you can fucking do in your life. And you're okay, and then you also gave yourself reflection, okay, I think I want to change some shit in my life.
Yeah, I totally did. I changed some shit in my life, and it just and then from there, even then I was well, I'm not scared to travel anywhere anymore. I think that some places need a little bit more research than others, just because,
for sure.
Yeah. Just because of my background knowledge of places that already exist. But from there, I planned this 10-day trip for me and my family to go to Puerto Rico, and I planned a 10-day trip to Greece, and then we also been to Italy. I've been able to and I just did this all on my own without consulting with travel agents. It just gave me the confidence to do that kind of thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for me, when I started coming back to my soul, my spirit, when I made some changes in my life, I heard a voice moved to Costa Rica 2011, moved there. So not intentional travel, but intentional travel, right? But I moved there. And then it was through that immersion that brought me back to like change how I travel. And then my teacher did a retreat in Costa Rica in 2012, and I went on that trip. And I was a participant. I was also a little tour guide too, and like helping out. But that was the first trip for me that I saw that you can bring a group of people outside of just your fucking friends.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can talk to my people. I've been the planner of all the trips back in the day. Fucking find the deals, do the trips and all that.
Yeah.
But like outside of your friends, taking a group, like having a group of people and setting intentional ways to immerse yourself in the culture, do different practices, go on adventures. I was like, fucking hey, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It is.
And meet different people like in the group, right? So different people from different places in the world.
It's amazing.
It's fucking awesome.
It's amazing to meet people that are different than you and from other places, have different. Now you probably have friends everywhere.
I do. Well, I probably so this is kind of a running joke with all my friends.
Yeah.
That if you wanted to go anywhere in the world, you probably have someone there, and they'd be like, come on over. Yeah. Like I definitely have created that life.
Yeah.
And I am, thank you, all y'all people. Thank you. Love y'all from the heart, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also something like, I had a friend that said back in the day, like, oh, you're lucky, like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck luck.
Yeah.
I live with my heart being open. I'm open to be vulnerable and, like, talk about shit and meet strangers and go up to someone I don't know and be like, yo, what's up? How's it going?
Yeah.
Oh, sass, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm Italian now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for me, like love is the universal language.
Yeah.
And so if you travel with love in your heart and as a consciousness in your mind, fuck man, the world is fucking open to you.
Yeah, that's right. And that doesn't mean like let's also pull into that, like the flip side of that, because traveling with love doesn't mean you're always going to experience love back. Because that's life and we're going to be dealing with humans out in the world. However, I think it provides an opportunity for us to learn how to adapt and go with the flow and just like let shit go sometimes.
And communicate. Like if you come anywhere with an open heart into the driver's license place, into whatever, the grocery store, you're gonna be that energy will mirror back.
Yeah.
And if you get a shitty person, you're also gonna be like, that I'm not affected by it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to a lot of people though, I think it's in Don Miguel, I forgot his last name, in the 4 agreements. One of them is don't take anything personally.
Yeah, don't take shit personally. That's the biggest lesson.
That's a big, huge lesson because we take shit personal. That shit is never about you. It is always about them.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
So think about any time you ever got mad at someone thinking that they wronged you. Well, even if they did wrong you, like it's really more about how you react to to it versus like what has happened. Mm-hmm. And that's the same way with travel. It's more like, how are you going to react to what has happened? Like usually people aren't doing things to you to hurt you. Sometimes they are, but like there's a greater reason and picture behind what they're doing than we can see and we don't know. So let's, it's just like, let it go.
Yeah, if you're traveling and get frustrated because you can't figure out the trains or figure out the bus, like if you just take a moment and like stop and pause and breathe and reset the energy and then go ask someone for help. Yeah. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is also a metaphor for life.
Yeah. There are people that will help you almost everywhere.
For sure.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So, that's a big thing. So now going back to, we'll circle back to more of our own experiences, but I want to talk about travel across life stages.
Mm-hmm.
So what that can look like, because like my experience, I was going through something that was in my my late 30s where I wasn't feeling fulfilled in my career. I loved children and I loved teaching, but I I still see my teacher friends on there. Somebody posted today, teachers are tired. I was constantly tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to live my life like that.
Yeah.
And I should encourage teachers to like fucking leave.
Yeah.
It will not change. You are not helping by staying. Like you're just aren't. You think you're staying there for the students, but you're just making the cycle. Okay, sorry. Okay. Go on and fucking rant about this all day. But if teachers stay and sacrifice their fucking lives and happiness for
Nothing
the
changes.
students, then your students, all they know is sacrificing happiness, and nothing changes in the education system because you're just allowing it to happen because you want to be there for the kids. Well, that's fucking great, but then your life is done and you're fucking too tired to do anything.
Well,
to do anything else.
It's also it's a metaphor for life too.
Yeah.
You know?
It is. Okay.
And I think like transformational travel, also intentional travel, also gives you that perspective.
Yeah.
That there is more to life than a grind. There is more to life than being fucking exhausted every day.
Every day. Yes, you are going to have to grind sometimes.
For sure.
Because it's life and you have to work hard sometimes. But like if you're happy doing that, fucking great.
Right.
But most people aren't happy.
Exactly.
And that is where that's where the difference is. Are you happy doing what you're doing? And if you're not, then that's an invitation.
Exactly.
So, in your 20s, what might like for me, just to go back to that, like for me, I was in a place in my mid 30s where I was feeling unfulfilled. I was feeling like I needed more. And a lot of people in their 30s and 40s are starting to feel that way because we make all sorts of decisions in our life in our 20s and our 30s based on what our kids want or what our spouse wants or whatever.
Society
pressures, right? So, we'll circle back to that. I want to go in chronological order. So, with the 20s, what might transformational travel look like? Or late teens, like college age, into like mid to late 20s.
You know, so I have a friend who her son is a senior, and he got to do an immersive trip to Japan for 3 months. And
that's awesome.
So for me, I had a conversation with her because that wasn't my life when I was a senior in high school.
No,
one, financially, that fucking was not.
I had too much fear to like be away from my friends.
I would have totally fucking gone. Oh no, I would. But money, like we didn't have that.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like also, you know, there is a, you know, something I've learned in Costa Rica is the U.S. It's a privilege to have certain passports.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can travel everywhere like a passport can give you.
Yeah.
In a few other countries. But to extend a privilege, if you will, to your children and those people of like teenage years, it will change their lives.
Yeah, it will.
Like they will look at the world differently from an earlier age than maybe those of us who started. I started traveling young. I mean, I lived in like 38 fucking states. So that gave me different perspectives.
I mean, I traveled over the United States, but I did not travel internationally until I was older.
And I got a passport when I was 18.
Awareness.
I was like, I'm fucking ready.
No, I was totally sheltered and like my parents didn't travel. Like our travel was to like 5 hours away to the beach and then back. You know, we just didn't travel like that. So it was not really something it's something that I started. Honestly, it was fucking Jimmy Buffett. Like when I started listening to him when I was in my teenage years, like, and he started singing about all these faraway places and all of his travel adventures. And I was like, wow, that's fucking amazing. But I still felt like it was so far out of reach for me. It wasn't hard.
So I think European children, they have something. So when they turn 18, they basically take a year of travel usually. And a lot of children backpack, like teenagers backpack. When I was in Costa Rica, I met a shit ton of kids 18 to 22 who were doing that. And I was like, wow, like the US culture, we really value, as I don't value this, but US culture values graduate high school, go straight to college, get a job.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's like the more of the work versus the experiences.
Mhm.
And I value experiences.
Same. Yeah.
Hashtag live life through
I
experiences.
value both, but yes, absolutely.
But
Like,
life
yeah, because you can't really make informed decisions until you've had experiences.
I mean, that's how we learn.
Yeah.
We can read all the books.
Right.
So I feel like, you know, intentional travel in your teens and in your 20s, like, let's look at outside cultures other than the US.
Yeah.
They have the shit on lockdown. You know, some cultures you have to go straight to the military and do your military term, and then afterwards you travel for a year.
Yeah.
So there is, there's other things out there.
Yeah. The thing that's different a little bit over there, which they have as a definitely a benefit, is that we're so big. The United States is so big, and then we've got Canada and we've got Mexico. And so, but the European countries are so tiny compared to the US.
Yeah.
So they can hop from fucking Paris to Germany to Italy to Greece to fucking Turkey. Like, it's all there. And they can get there so quickly. So they do have that, like, experience an entirely different culture. For us, it's a little bit more difficult because of where we're located.
I also think it's a mindset, though. Like, you know, when I met so many people from around the world, like those 7 years, like a Harvard's experience, if you will, like, their mindset is different. Like, Europeans get passports at a young age.
Yeah.
The US, like, we keep ourselves here.
Right.
Which is also, I think, like, it shapes what we value.
Right.
I think if you start traveling younger, I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Like, even if it is in the US.
Yeah.
Like, if you travel younger, then you just start to open up.
It's expanding horizons.
And your experiences and your, like, how other people live. Like,
yeah, it's about discovery, it's about self-exploration, and it's about really expanding your horizons more when you're in your 20s.
And no matter where you travel.
Yeah. No matter, and that's a great point, because what I do want to bring up, like, you don't have to travel internationally to expand your horizons.
No,
you just have to get outside of your little bubble. Like, I'm from Virginia, and the first place that I traveled, like, was to fucking Massachusetts. I went on, like, a youth group trip we went on a youth group trip, and it was like a kids camp that we ran in Worcester, Massachusetts. But I went to Boston, and guess where we went to? We went to New York City, just like, you know, for a couple of days. And that shit was like, wow, that was amazing. So, but you know, those were other places that I traveled. And then, and it doesn't have to necessarily, I mean, and if you can't, like, go to another state, just go 2 hours away, you know, just like talk to people that are not, like, that live a little bit different than you.
Well, I think the internet definitely has changed for the younger group, like the younger age people, where they travel. So in my 30s, I found out about woofing. So woofing is a international program where you can go to, like, a farm or go somewhere else and exchange. So you live usually for free and you eat for free, but you give them certain times of work. You can do this through yoga programs now, but there's a lot of programs. But the internet changed that, because like, in my mid to late 30s, I learned about this through the internet because I was dating someone 10 years younger than me, and he's like, "Oh, have you heard about this?" And I was like, "No." So the younger generations, any of you listening out there, younger generations, I'm gonna sound like my mom now. It's like there is a bigger world and an opportunity, and for me, like, I personally have a belief, like, if you're just sitting at the house and you're doing, you know, the routine, and you're thinking, like, oh, I've got to do this because this is what I'm supposed to do, there is a whole fucking world out there for us. Like, we created separation, humans did, in states and countries and different things, but at the end of the day, like, we are all human beings living on this.
They're all made up. All those borders and separations all made up.
So let's go.
So, all right. So you brought up 30s. Like, so let's talk about, like, what travel might look like a little bit in in your 30s. So you might have started a family. You may not have started a family yet. You've probably been working on your career at that point. For some, if you're in the US, you've been working on your career at that time. And then,
you're like full blown in your career.
You're probably really like deep in the throes of like, and you're probably trying to climb the ladder or whatever it is that you're probably trying to grow in it in some way, hopefully anyway, because if you're not growing, you're dying. But, but I think more, so in your 30s, I think we have to balance the we have to focus more on like balancing the travel with our careers and with our families, because it's more about like, if we want to integrate travel into our lives, sometimes we're taking our families along with us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're going, like it's less solo travel and more, we're all going together. So what might it look like for like a family?
And also I think it depends too, like if you're working more of a corporate job or being like an entrepreneur, like your flexibility of time. Right. So when I was in my corporate job, even though I got 4 weeks of vacation, I could only take a week at a time. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So you might be limited to the time you can travel. Right. So what are ways you can do that in your 30s? But taking your family intentionally, providing trips. But I think like men and women are different. I feel like, there's a lot of people out there. I've got friends that are older, like their idea, we're not really close friends, these people. Their idea is like, go get fucking drunk. Like just like be fucking drunk every fucking day in the sun.
Well, I'm not talking about tourism. That's tourism. I'm talking about what might transformational.
That's what I'm saying though.
Okay.
So I just want to like give a spectrum. Okay. Like there's a lot of people out there like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like they have that. Yeah. Versus like the way that we want to do it or that we are doing it is like in the 30s. I feel like as women, because I can only speak for me and being a woman, our wheels start to turn in our 30s. I work with many women that are in their 30s. Their wheels start to turn. Like, oh, is there more to life than what I'm doing? Yeah. And I feel like if you have a family and your wheels are turning and you lend experiences through your own desire for personal growth and incorporate your family, that's fucking beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, that's what you did.
I did.
Because your family, you have more of that desire.
I started a little bit late with my son. He was closer to 16, 17, I think, when we took him to Puerto Rico. And I think he's traveled with his father to Dominican, but they're staying in the resort type of people. So I'm sure they didn't. And also that's kind of, I don't think I would choose to travel there unless I was staying in one of the resorts personally. But I think that at least right now, backtrack and say at least right now, because I think that they're dealing with some safety issues in the Dominican Republic right now.
It's been going on.
Yeah, it's been going on. But but I started a little bit late with him, so he did not take, and this is okay too. Like he did not enjoy travel as much as my daughter ended up enjoying travel, because she was 3 years younger when we went. And she, it's just a complete, he had some influence from his dad and his stepmom, and they just do travel completely different than I do. Not that it's bad, it's just different. Mm-hmm. And so he, I think, leans more toward that side of travel. But he still doesn't, he's also an extreme homebody. He likes being home. He's not necessarily uncomfortable with other cultures at all. He has many friends of all different cultures, but I think he's just like, it's not really his thing. Like he likes to be home. He likes to like, I don't know. Is that his thing?
No, but that's who I was married to too.
Yeah.
And we all have a different personality.
Right. And that's his personality. It's completely fine. But I think that if I would have started a little bit earlier, I would have been able to cultivate that natural curiosity a little bit more that my daughter has. My daughter does have a little bit more of the natural curiosity. She's a little bit younger, and I think the earlier you can start them, the more they're going to have that natural curiosity for it.
And I also think, like, in general, if your personality is more like a truth seeker, I'm a truth seeker. I think that you have this pull that's outside of yourself.
Yeah.
To like go and
And
experience and
explore. Yeah. For sure.
Mhm.
And so with my daughter, yeah, she is very much on board with everything. So she wants to go everywhere with us. And so that's what we did in our 30s. We had kids a little bit younger. So I'm talking about like the younger parents, and a lot of people have them in their 40s now. And so they're just doing this in their 40s. They probably had more time to travel when they were younger.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to travel when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was raising babies, and then when they got old enough, but you can take them anytime, but when I felt like I wanted to travel with them on airplanes, I don't have that kind of energy to take babies all over the world, but many people do, and that's fine.
I know, props to like so many families. I met like in Costa Rica, like living there, I met so many families that like picked up like their 2-3-year-olds and was like, we want a different life for us. And they moved there and like immersed more in nature. Because that was something important for them. Like I always think like, so let's just back up a little bit because fear can overtake people.
Yeah.
And so when I lived in Costa Rica, we get a lot of messages like, "Oh, you're so lucky to be doing this. I'm living through you." Blah blah blah. And it's like, I have a kid, I can't do this. And it's like, my mom fucking strapped me at 3 months old, and we went to an Ike and Tina Turner concert.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can make all the type of excuses, you can rationalize all the things you want to in your life.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, you're responsible for your own happiness.
Yeah.
So if you're just out there complaining about shit, you got the power to change it.
Yeah.
If you're like miserable and you're just like, I don't want to change it, so then just be miserable. So like pick it.
Right.
Because we all like, I traveled to
everything is a choice.
And I traveled to Costa Rica with a blind dog. It's like, no fucking eyes.
Yeah.
Like,
if you want to do it, you can. I didn't want to.
No, like, a lot of people will sit, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you knew, like, I'm going to wait till they're older. I'm going to make that choice.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will sit and stir and be upset with the box that they created.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're all responsible for how big or small our world is.
That's very, very correct. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So you're traveling, you know, you might be creating memories when you're traveling, say, you know, with your kids.
100%.
And it's more like family oriented, but you can do it in a transformative way to where you're exposing and you're making exposing your family to the different cultures and different ways of life, creating meaningful connections with other people.
Yeah, in country or out of country, whatever country you're in.
Disney World, there is an opportunity there to connect with other people. You can connect with
it's true.
You might even be able to connect with, like, go to one of the restaurants after hours and find one of the people that are in the show and ask them about their life and how did they get to where they are today. You know,
so I actually did that. So I took a few cruises. My first cruise was when I was 23.
Yeah.
And people from all around the world work on cruise ships.
Yeah.
You know what I spent time doing? I mean, I did have some cocktails, don't get me wrong. But yes, just talking with the staff and like finding out where they're from and like what their country's like and what their culture's like.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man, it's so good.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we've worked on our careers and we've gotten our children to where they are somewhat self-sufficient.
If you have children,
or maybe you've also been like taking care of family members. You did have a family member that you had to take care of. So you didn't have children, but you were responsible for someone else's life for a while she was sick. Okay, so we've sort of gotten past that point and those points in our lives, and now we're like, holy shit,
what do we do now?
What do we do now?
Yeah.
And so I think when you hit your later 40s, 50s, and beyond, everything beyond.
So you're 44, right?
Yeah, I'll be 45 this year.
I'm 49, going to be 50.
Yeah.
So we can speak right now from where we are.
Yeah.
We both have friends older than us, you know. We can talk about their experiences, but lived experiences. I'm about to turn 50 and she's about to turn 45.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so at this point, for me, travel has become a more reflective experience.
Yes.
So, that makes me sound really old, but I have gotten past like a lot of the, like, to me, raising children was not easy. Working on my young marriage was not easy. It was, somebody said this beautiful thing. And I think it's true for raising kids. They said it about marriage.
I guess I'm going to do that. Take the lid off.
Just take the lid off. You can do it. Just let everybody know what you're doing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they said this beautiful thing where there's two different kinds of work, right? There's like the grind. There's you're sludging through this work day after day after day. And marriage should not feel like that. And raising children should also not feel like that. But it is still work, but it's in the work in the way of like an artist is working on painting a picture, or the way, a chef is working to create. It's more of an experience of work, and it's hard and difficult and challenging and tapping into all of that. But it's more, that is what it feels like. That's what it should feel like anyway. And so,
and be fulfilling.
I mean, raising children is hard. You don't always, people go through a lot of different phases with it. And I will say that it didn't always feel fulfilling to me until, like, I didn't appreciate the baby stage.
Yeah.
I loved once they got to be about 10.
Yeah.
Because they can rationalize shit and they're constantly screaming. Like, but that was a really hard phase for me in my life.
One reason why I didn't have any children.
There was a little bit of sludging through there, but I came out on the other side, and like, I love my kids so much, and I'm so glad I went through that. I would never take it back, but it was hard. But now I'm past that, and now they're 18 and 21, almost 19 and 22, and I've done. Marriage is constant work, but I think the first 10 years is probably the most, because, and especially when you're raising children, it can get even harder because you may have different ideals how to parent. You're both stressed out, you're tired. It's hard as shit on a marriage. Kids are hard on a fucking marriage. And then, but now your kids are grown and you're both like, now you sort of like, as long as you've done the work throughout that time, you're sliding into this ease of marriage. You're getting back into like, things to me in this stage is a lot easier. However, I've spent a lot of time focusing on them, focusing on my marriage, focusing on my kids. And you had spent a lot of time focusing on your mom and focusing on your career. And a lot of people and now it's like you're refocusing and you're reframing, and you're in a more reflective, like, well, who the fuck am I?
It's like another rebirth.
Yes, exactly. It's a rebirth. Mm-hmm. It's a rebirthing of yourself, because you are not who you were before you had kids, and before you had a career, and before you had to take care of your mother. And you're a completely different person now, but who are you? You don't know. You have to get to know that person. You have to figure that out.
I think that's what I love about retreats, is because
we're talking about retreats here. We're going to switch, because I think there's a little bit of difference between transformative travel and retreats.
There can be, depending on your leader, but I just want to I talk about retreats because I do them. That's what I love about retreats, is because you can, no matter what age, you can take people and create transformational experiences and teach them that this can be an extension of their life. Mm-hmm. I have so many people that have gone on my retreats, and then they text me and be like, I'm creating a trip for my family that's totally different now based on the trip we went on.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's something different out there.
Yeah.
It gives them a real life experience that you can actually change the way that you travel.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll go into that. We'll kind of segue into that. Like, in I would say 40s and beyond, is a little more reflective. You're making deeper connections. You're experiencing a different level of growth through these transformative experiences. But let's give some examples of like what can happen and how transformative travel can help people.
So for me, it's about that balance of adventure relax time, reflection time, creative time, sit with my own shit time, be in community time. It's the balance. It's like having the full circle experience. Yeah. Not just being concentrated on one focus. Right. Like even on transformational travel, retreat travel, whatever it is, intentional travel, you can have themes for a trip, a week-long trip, and also create a full body experience. Yeah. With adventure. Yeah. With relaxation time. Yeah. With practices. Yeah. With creativity. With nature. Right. That for me is the shit. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. And I think that just as with anything, our relationships and our connections with other people are mirrors. And so when we interact with other cultures or environments, we do we, ourselves are reflected back to us, whether in the way we're reacting to those or how we feel about them. We feel like, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. Like, well, you also see how people treat people. Yeah, because that is also like, that's what I've noticed, like traveling so much. Like you go out with a group of people, maybe you're just getting to know them. Yeah. How are they treating other people? Yeah. How are they treating the staff? Yeah. The waiter, the waitress, like how the housekeeper, whatever. Like how people treat people is also a direct reflection of how you want to live your life and the mirror inside. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that through getting to know other people and other environments, other perspectives, we get to know ourselves deeper. 100%. Yeah. Let's talk about. It's probably one of the funnest things to do. I know. Mm-hmm. I love it. But also, let's talk about how stepping out of our comfort zone can change us. Yeah, because we do that when we travel. You're not in your comfort zone anymore. You are in a fucking new place, no matter where it is. So I have a funny story. Okay. So when I lived in Costa Rica, language has never been my thing, just so we know. Okay, I'm more of like an energy language girl. So, it's fine. I didn't get the conjugation correct, but like I got by fine. Like I went to Nicaragua fucking 14 times by myself. So when I was there, I remember like having to take the bus and like navigate transportation and be like, fuck man, like, because this is outside of my native language. Yeah. And how I'm going to navigate this and like how fucking scary it was. Yeah. And then I did it every time. Yeah. And just be like, I already knew I was strong, but like, fuck Jenny, the badass bitch, you know? Yeah. And then I remember on a trip back to the US, I went and saw some people in Seattle, and my friend in Tacoma came to visit. And I spent a couple nights with her, and then I was going to take the bus back from Tacoma to Seattle. Uh-huh. I hadn't done it before. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, man, how am I going to do this? And then I started laughing because my higher self was like, they speak fucking English. Yeah. And I was like, God damn, I got this. Like, but it was just like out of your comfort zone. Yeah. That fear starts to take over. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, like, you will always fucking figure it out. Yeah. And like in life, in healing, in travel, in whatever it is, in relationships, that first fucking step is the hardest one to take. Always. And after that, dude, you got this. Yeah. 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 So, and how that's so funny. And how that shows up like that just goes back to me like stepping out of my comfort zone and having to get in that cab. I didn't know enough Spanish I can probably ask to get to the airport in French, but airport. See, here I go. And then, but in like Spanish, I didn't know the word. So I had to, like, there's fucking Google Translate on your phone. And the phone translate, there was like, flying. Yeah. Delta. I'm in Delta. Body language and sign language. Yeah. And you just figure it out. We're all humans. We all have the same wants and needs and things like that. So, so stepping out of your comfort zone and embracing new perspectives, that sort of thing, like you carry that into your life in a different way once you've experienced it traveling. Yeah, and for those of you that have a lot of fear about traveling outside of like the places that you so who I was married to, like he takes the same kind of vacation still. Uh-huh. Do you know what I mean? Uh-huh. Like that's a comfort for him. Uh-huh. For me, like it's fucking scary. Like the way that I choose to live sometimes, but it's so fucking awesome and fulfilling too.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, like, if you're like, oh, well, you know, like, I'm scared to do travel outside of what I've been doing, start with like your house.
Yeah.
Like what you're doing in your own environment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to talk about yoga for a minute. Like, if you've been going to the same yoga studio,
Yeah.
just try to yoga studio.
Yeah.
Like, just change.
Or get in a different, don't go to the same spot in your yoga studio. That in place.
Yeah, it's like take a different function on your way to work.
Yeah.
Or on the way to the grocery store, like little things like that, just like change your perspective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
will then lend itself to greater things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I love that, talking about stepping out of the comfort zone, but let's talk about shifting from external, how we might become aware of external expectations and how they've been showing up in our lives, and shifting that to more of internal fulfillment.
Yeah.
So what has been expected of us from society, from our families, from our learned things that we've learned, to what actually makes us happy and matters to us, not to anyone else.
Yeah.
How travel can help with that. How do you think?
Yeah, if you create a list about the things that are super important for you, like for me, connection, integrity, adventure, community,
freedom
is like my 5 things.
Yeah.
That is super important for me.
Yeah.
And so, also fucking organic foods. Let me just show that there.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying this is I went to Ecuador for 2 months 2 years ago. And I won't be back there. It was ridden with chemicals. 70% of the countries without water because of politics. So it was not a joyful experience for me. It is important that trip changed now how I travel. Just fine-tuned it a little bit. Took a little switch in my travel.
Yeah.
Wherever I go, a must and a need for me is to have natural and organic foods.
Okay.
Bam. And so you don't know until you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know about the politics, the way the water situation is in Ecuador until I got there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find that on the Googles when I was.
Do you think that's everywhere in Ecuador?
Everywhere. 70% of the country's without water.
Okay.
Because of fucking politics.
Yeah.
It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
So also, like, not a place I want to be.
Yeah.
Also, chemicals everywhere.
Yeah.
So not a place I want to be.
Yeah.
And the Amazon is fucking there.
Yeah. So how does that, let's like, so that shows up in like what you need, what you know that is important to you.
Yeah. So because I had like such a high desire to travel everywhere in the world, but that experience told me that environmental factors and finding natural and organic foods are higher on the list than just that need to go everywhere in the world.
Right. Okay. So, and you were able to, find that out through traveling, and I think that's amazing. Unfortunately, you had to go through that experience, and create some suffering. But we all learn from like negative experiences. You had something to take away from that.
Yeah,
we learned something.
Yeah, we'll go back there.
Yeah, and so, but like specifically, I'm talking about like a situation where maybe you were traveling and you realized. So I'll just use an example of. I talked to this woman on a podcast for season 1, and she was talking about tarot cards. And she is a tarot card reader, but she started her career as a geologist. Like she went, like the external expectation of her going to college and doing this thing. And, this is just like what society expected of her. And now she realized, like, I don't know if she realized this through travel, but I do know that like the type of perspective that you can get from traveling somewhere and stepping outside of your daily routine. And stepping outside of your daily routine and stepping outside of, I think that is a lot has to do with it. Like you have to step outside of your routine and to be able to get a more, objective look on your life.
Yeah.
So it lets you kind of view your life from a bird's eye view, saying, why am I happy in doing what I'm doing? And I don't know if she did this like through travel or if she did it through just intense self-reflection meditation, which you can also do. But travel is just another tool and avenue that you can take to use this. So to see these things. And so she was like, no, I'm not happy being a fucking geologist. I just did that because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do, fulfill it and making my parents happy, yada, yada, yada. And she became a fucking tarot card reader, and she's so fucking happy.
Yeah.
She's so happy.
And so I think the correlation is like when you travel and you take yourself out of your comfort zone, that you are more in alignment, if you will, with your like spirit and your soul, living on this planet as a human being.
Yeah.
Like everything is more harmonized together.
Yeah.
Because you're fulfilling more of yourself.
Right.
And then it gives you like a big greater perspective of like letting go of judgment of like what people think and being like, I'm going to choose my own road.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose my own path. I'm going to let life look like me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what travel does.
Yeah. And that's certainly
or travel can do.
I'll just never forget that feeling of like being on the fucking metro in Paris and being like, you know, I had to get these people from city center to our hotel, and like it was fucking fine. And I just like, to me, like that was just like a moment of clarity. I was like, why am I doing and it had nothing to do with the students. I loved them. They were amazing on the trip. But like, I was like, why am I spending all of my life teaching and being stuck, you know, like, and it really wasn't like a societal expectation at that point, but it was like more of a expectation that I feel like I had for myself. Like I thought that that's what I wanted, but it just helped me to realize like, this is not what I want. I am capable of so much more. Like I can find our way from city center on the metro to our hotel, which was like, you know, 10 stops down or whatever. And then we walked to our, gotten there just fine in a new country, in different language. I mean, I do know some French, but realizing that I knew enough French also to like get it done. I was like, yeah, yes, and you're just like, yes, it just like, just stepping outside of my comfort zone and being able to, it really gives you like a bird's eye view of your life, I think. Able to see it from a different perspective because you have stepped outside of your routine.
And you stop taking shit so seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Transformational travel isn't all serious. It's fucking fun.
Well, it better be if I'm going on it.
That's right.
That's all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else that you wanted to add at this point? Because I'm getting ready to tell you guys about one of the reasons why I wanted to have this podcast today. Is there anything you wanted to add? I want to add a quote by Mark Twain. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And then there's another one by St. Augustine. The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page.
Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm. And for me, so I follow the holistic psychologist on Instagram, and she posted something this past week, and me and Robbin, actually, I was talking to Robbin about this before the podcast. It's like there's like now like a pattern of women in their 30s and 40s that are having midlife crises for a lot of different reasons. And for me, like I had that, like I was Eat, Pray, and Love too, just like Elizabeth Gilbert was. Like I read that book right before I did my own Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah. You haven't seen that movie or read the book.
You probably been living in a box.
Yeah. Because I'm sure you've heard of it. I mean, she went through some transformative travel. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that, you know, I read that book before I took my own transformative journey into Costa Rica and changed my life. Like for me, I'm working with a client right now, actually 2 clients working on the same thing. So one of the clients actually said, like, when I read that book, it really triggered me. And I was like, fuck this book. I put it down. And I was like, oh, so interesting. Right? Because it like brings up things we talked about here.
Yeah.
But like if you're in your 30s and your 40s, like that's kind of the average. I think that, you know, a lot of women that listen to us are in. It's like you're not alone. Like when we're living outside of ourselves more than we're living inside of ourselves, the shit's gonna go down. And so it's like you can use travel as an extension of your life. You can use retreats as an extension of your life versus like an escape from your life. Because a lot of people use travel to escape from their life and like regret having to come back home. And like if that's you, that used to be me. I like on the last day of the trip, I would be like, fuck, I don't want to go back.
I mean, I cried at the end of my trip.
Depressed. Like, yeah. And so versus like if you start to create a mindset where travel is an extension of your life, you can do this by transformational travel, intentional travel, finding retreat leaders like me that do this on retreats. Like it will change your life because it will then become an extension of the way that you view life and the way that you carry other trips. Even if it's just going like 2 hours away, it will totally change.
And you don't have to go on like a solo sojourn like Elizabeth Gilbert went on. She was Eat, Pray, Love, wasn't she?
Yeah.
It was Elizabeth Gilbert, yeah. So you don't have to do that alone. You can do it in community.
Yeah, and with like-minded people.
With like-minded people.
For sure.
So, bitches,
I'm
going to tell you about what I'm starting. I am getting ready. I guess by this point it has been introduced. By the time this podcast goes out, I have created an intentional travel community or transformational travel community called Soul Seeker Travel Company, where I'm going to be creating some tours that are immersive cultural experiences that combine those experiences with profound self-discovery and inner work. This community is I'm going to be inviting people into this community. You don't have to travel to be part of this with us, to be part of this community. You can just join the community if you are curious about travel, if you're curious about what we're doing, if you're curious about self-discovery, if you're just curious, you can still join. You don't have to like come on these trips with us. But I have created a first trip, and we are going to be going to Tuscany on October 15th through 22nd.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So Tuscany is a region of Italy that is, Florence is in Tuscany. And we are going to be spending 7 days and nights in an agriturismo, which is basically a farmhouse just outside of San Gimignano, which is
a beautiful farmhouse.
It's a beautiful farmhouse. San Gimignano is a medieval little town with medieval architecture and shops and restaurants and things like that. We're a little bit outside of Florence. And so we're going to be there for 7 days, 7 nights. The trip is called Harvesting Joy, Rediscovering Yourself Amidst, I can't even say it.
Amidst.
Yeah. Thanks. Tuscan beauty. So 7 days, 7 nights, or I guess that would be 8 days, 7 nights.
Yeah.
8 days, 7 nights. We are going to spend some time helping this farm harvest some olives. We're going to be visiting the olive press. We are going to be having some wine tasting because it's a working farm. It's a working olive grove and vineyard. So we'll have some wine tasting. We'll visit San Gimignano. We will visit Florence a couple of days. So you will get to see the Duomo and all of that. All breakfast, lunches, dinners are included. And we're going to be having a cooking lesson, like an Italian cooking lesson, and truffle hunting, and which is where we're going to go into the woods of the property. And it's going to be truffle season. So hopefully we'll find some truffles. We'll have a lunch after that together. And we're going to have intentional travel practices. So what does that mean? So all of the trips include 2 pre-trip group coaching classes. You'll receive an intentional travel journal. We're going to meet prior to the trip and talk about, we'll have someone come on from the community and talk about the cultural traditions of Italy and Tuscany, also in particular, where we'll just have like a little information session about what the traditions are there. We're going to have one immersive group language lesson. So we'll have an Italian speaker come on and tell us just basic, how to order food, what to say, how to say hello and good night and good afternoon and ciao bella, and all of the things like that. We receive a comprehensive packing list and also a post-group coaching session. But the most important part, I think, all of this fucking fun and community where we're going to be, everyone's, if you have to be curious to come, curious about yourself, curious about Italian culture. We're also going to be having transformational and intentional travel experiences, where we will intentionally every day do some group journaling, do some group work, and have conversations. We'll talk about, we'll have a different theme every day where we'll talk about our communication, our social, our labels that we've given ourselves and that other people have given to us, and just kind of reevaluating everything. And so this might be, it's a little bit different than a transformational retreat, because I think that these terms can sometimes be used interchangeably. But for me, and the way that I define these two things is I look at a transformational travel as a little more geared toward immersive cultural experiences along with the self-discovery. And then retreats, for me, like when I think of the word retreat, I'm retreating. I'm not going, I'm retreating. So for me, and I know that Jeanie hosts like both of these types of retreats, but I think it's just like an umbrella term for them is retreats. Retreat is you're backing out. You're getting out of your regular routine and getting into taking a really, really deep dive into your life. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be going away to do this, but I think it's a little bit more intensive, and a little bit. It can be, for sure. In your definition, my definition is this is the way I look at it. Yeah. Your definition might define. Yeah. To me, retreating is retreating, and traveling is like two different actions. So, but I think you can combine them, and I think that they can be used interchangeably. I think it's just like how you discuss the details. Like are the details of your trips? It's just it's semantics at this point. Yeah. And also guide, like I think that's important too. Like, your people are going to find you, right? Like with your business, like, who you are that year will be, you'll find those people. For sure. Mm-hmm. And so, absolutely. And so, Soul Seeker Travel will, like our community will be focused on other, the food and the art and the music and the traditions, all of these things of other cultures, but also like what, self-growth through experiencing those things. Yeah, that's your embodiment. Like that's all the shit that you love. Yeah. You're going to offer that to the people. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so our first trip is to Tuscany, and I'll have some more trips announced soon, but October 15th through 22nd, we have, I'm just really excited about this. I'm really, really, really excited because I think that, especially after COVID, a lot of us are traveling a little bit differently than before COVID. Before COVID, where there's a little more intention involved, because we can see now how fast these privileges of travel can be taken from us or restricted or, whatever. And so now I think there's a need for it. Life. Yeah. And these like experiences are what we take with us. We don't take anything with us. We take our memories and we take our experiences. So come with us, join me. You can find me at Soul Seeker Travel Company on Facebook and also Soul Seeker. I think it's just Soul Seeker Travel Co. on Instagram. And
You'll have to
website.
I haven't gotten that yet.
Because as of today, I haven't made it public.
Oh, okay, then.
But it's there. It's there. It's not public yet.
Okay.
In real life, in real time here, but it will be by the time you see this. So, and then the website is soulseekertravelco.com. So it's SOULSEEKER travelco.com. And you can look on our website there, sign up for emails.
I love it.
Follow us on social media. I'm really, really excited.
I love it.
Really excited.
I love it.
It's gonna be good stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. And Jeanie, she is a retreat leader. So she's gonna be going to Italy. You're having a retreat. Once you make it over to Italy, Jeanie's going to go on a retreat in Greece.
Yeah.
Where she's having her transformational travel retreat.
Yeah,
But what is your it's sold out, so don't get your hopes up. But there will be more.
Yeah,
what is your theme for that one?
So it's all heart centered. We're doing a Greece immersion and celebration. We're celebrating life, celebrating like you. We're also going to be celebrating my 50th birthday that week.
That's awesome.
And just all heart centered. And also like immersive in the Greece culture. It's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to do a Italian retreat. Flourish in Italy. In 2025, May or June. I'm working on the details now.
Cool.
But check me out because I'm moving to Italy.
Yes.
Working on my dual citizenship process. I leave May 3rd. And after the retreat, I'll be back to Italy at the end of May, and this all starts to show up. So this is also this is going to end. This podcast ends season 2.
Yeah, this will end
with Robbin and me.
Yeah, because Jeannie's got to go handle her travel.
Yep, handle the travel.
And I've got new things that I have to work on for a little while.
Yeah,
so we'll be taking a little bit of break. I don't know where season 3 is going to be. It seems to be It seems to be morphing a little bit every season. So we'll see what happens next season.
Yeah, for sure. And please follow me on the social medias. I'm at Intuitive Soul Coaching and Retreats on Facebook and Intuitive Soul _ Coaching Retreats on Instagram. You can also subscribe and find me on my website, IamJeanieBaker.com. It's been fun.
It has been fun.
Love you.
I love you too.
And thank you to everyone for subscribing, for commenting, for sharing the journey with us.
You guys so much.
Yeah.
Like, just knowing that you're there and that I know that you guys support us just as much as we want to support you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And if I can help you one-on-one, I have intuitive embodiment programs, coaching programs that I do 3 months, 6 months. And I reach everyone around the world because of the internet. So gratitude for the internet.
Yes.
Thank you.
Connecting us even when we can't be together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lots of love.
Ah.
Ciao, ciao.